We are virgins no longer.
So a little fun fact about Greece.
In a boat, we're Americans. We're going to spend money. And at the risk of sounding morbid,
The oldest travel influencers on the podcast scene at some point here. So Chuck and I are happy to take your calls. Well, you know, if I had a secretary, we're separate but equal. Someone has to like me best. Enough money and time, you can do anything you want in this world.
the man, the myth, and legend.
I got a Volvo.
Not a political statement.
Travel like something is potentially going wrong. Extra underwear. You know, you can't wear shorts everywhere.
Chuck decides to move to France.
Well, first of all, let's just say this. Everybody get your passports. Who's coming? I'll fight you.
I'm not trying to be funny. They speak the language.
Today's my last day. We're just going to shut down right here.
We spent 4 days of the cruise in our cabins dying.
And if you're sick, don't travel. I mean, ever handsome, ever friendly, ever wonderful. It's not that I don't like children.
She's very picky about everything but her men.
I do believe I proclaimed for the spirit that day. Because I don't wear pajamas.
And last week on Life in the Baggage Claim. Welcome, everyone. This is Life in the Baggage Claim. We are a weekly podcast about all things travel. My name is Chuck Longerbeam. I'm a cruise planner in Charlottesville, Virginia. And with me always is my tanned, rested, and ready friend and co-host, Jim Hauck. Jim, how are you, my friend?
Good. Just back from a week on the Celebrity Beyond. Had a great time. Lived the high life for a week on a sweet living life. And I mean literally S-U-I-T-E, sweet living.
A sweet life?
Yes. Okay, Sade. So yeah, I'm glad to be back. It's great seeing you. We attempted our first ever Let's Have Somebody podcast abroad, and my face melted off the screen and Chuck said no more.
It was a very frustrating 5 minutes. We were like, no. Let's just throw in the towel and call it a day. So So, Jim, what's new? You just got back from a trip, and then we talked, for those of you who listened last week or the last episode, we talked a lot about the Celebrity Beyond, and Jim's got my interest piqued. I'm assuming everyone else's as well. If you're new to us, please like, subscribe, share, accost your neighbors and friends, ask them to like us, go up on strangers on the street, whatever you have to do. We're just trying to get this out there to as many folks as possible. We love doing this. We do it as a service because we enjoy it, and we actually love to talk about travel. Why we both got into cruise planners. That's how we met. And, you know, also we're trying to grow our businesses so that we can continue to do this. And Jim just, for those of you who listened last week, Jim just sent he's got a better brand of client than I do because they took him with him, but a phenomenal cruise on a suite and made 3 people very happy. I mentioned last week that I had a young couple who were on their honeymoon who were texting me pictures from Venice. They're ecstatic. Whole reason we do this. But anyway, so this week, folks, if the hat doesn't give it away, and for those of you who don't know what this is, it's called a tam, T-A-M. It's a traditional Scottish headgear. We are going to be talking about Scotland today.
That's great. You are going to give us your brogue, I hope.
I'm going to let you embarrass yourself with that. I'll stay
out of it. You're going to say that. We're going to change, of course. This podcast is going to be all about Chuck. And Jim is going to do his best to sit here, ask questions, poke for answers, and basically take it all in. I have not yet been to Scotland.
Okay.
I've been to the other parts of the kingdom and enjoyed it. I heard lots of good things, Chuck, so I'm very excited to hear your stories and why Scotland. So with no further ado, yes, thank you all for being here. And if I could just say, we got one comment from somebody this week, which was lovely. She just said, this was fun and great. And I'm thinking to myself, wow. And it was on our episode 8, which was, I don't remember. Just so nice to have feedback. So
episode 8 was Get to Know Jim.
Well, she must know me then. See, and that
All right, or you have an admirer, Jim.
So I would encourage you, if you can, give us some feedback, because as new podcasters, we want to know that we're doing things that aren't stupid and outlandish. But we also want to know you resonate, that this is something you're interested in, because everybody wants to travel. Everybody wants to have a good time. And what we may think of it is good is different, right? So that's part of the reason we're here. So please, when you watch a video, if you have time, go back and give us a little comment, feedback, a yay, nay, or an emoji just to tell us you've engaged. It really makes us feel good. It makes us want to do this more because it's for you. Don't get me wrong. We both could probably sit and do talk radio for hours and never stop. With that,
What?
It's time to go on to Scotland, and I'm going to let Chuck take the mic from me, telling us Why Scotland?
Okay, well, thank you, Jim. Well, first of all, why not Scotland? But no, just joking. So my family went on a what I like to call the appetizer cruise in 2019, and we did 12 days around the British Isles. And I say appetizer cruise because we got like 8 hours in each place, and it was one of those things where we got to see some beautiful places. But it mainly, this is going to sound very nihilistic, but I don't mean it that way. It mainly showed you the places that you would love to go back to and the places where you're like, once is enough. I've always been fascinated. I've always been an Anglophile. You and I talked about that in one of the episodes, British comedy and I taught English for years. I'm an English major and I love, British literature and all that. So I was really excited to go to London and I absolutely loved London. Please take that let's put that right out there. But when we got to Scotland and we went to 3 places in Scotland, and I'll get that in a minute, it immediately stole my heart. There is an austere barrenness to Scotland that is just breathtaking. And what I mean by that, it's got cities and it's got towns and all that. But wherever you are in Scotland, there is a mountain and a body of water within sight. You have to look for it, but it's there. And it's so rustic. But I know like some people look at the desert and it speaks to them. I don't see that. I mean, it can be beautiful, but Scotland's kind of with the rolling hills and the heather and the just almost brutal seascapes. I mean, like the force of the ocean and the cliffs, and it's just, and maybe I'm not selling it right, but there's something about it that just tugged at my heart.
Sounds like it's the harder side to Ireland, which is soft and green and mushy. You've got the rocks and the
Right. And so we went, like I said, we went on a cruise, and it was a princess cruise, and it was wonderful. And we went to, we started in Le Havre, France. By the way, the reason I'm telling you this, I'm doing a little side note here. I would suggest this cruise to anyone. We started in Le Havre, France, then we went to Southampton. So we went up into London, and we went to Guernsey. And I'm almost positive I have the order off. But then we went to Dublin for 2 days, Cork, Belfast, Inverness, Glasgow, Edinburgh, and back to Le Havre. So it was absolutely phenomenal. But anyway, first place we went was Inverness. Inverness is in the extreme north. If it's not, it's a very thing. But if Scotland's a circle, you go up around and you come down the channel and there's Inverness. Inverness is a fascinating little town. I think it's got like 45,000 people in it. Maybe I should call that a city. I don't know. But
if you're Scottish, you're welcome to speak up in our comments and let them have it.
Oh, yes, please. Please. I was there for like 12 hours. You are more than welcome to tell me how wrong I am. But, and I don't mean this in some weird new age way, but I've never been to a place where every time I walked around a corner, I was like, yeah, that should be there. Not like I'd seen it before. I don't mean it that way, but it was just the way it was laid out. It's made so much sense. But the people are beautiful and wonderful. I'm sure there's jerks there. There's jerks everywhere. But everybody we ran into, we're just kind of happy to be alive. Just like, hey, how you doing? We are not loud, brash Americans. So they, I'm sure they could smell us coming. It's probably not very hard for Europeans to spot Americans, but my wife and son and mother and I were there, and we're just, we're there to be part of what's going on. So we were embraced. It was wonderful. But, Inverness is this cool little town, and it's split. This is getting hot because it's 100% pure wool. The town is split in two by the River Ness. And I'm going to geek out for half a moment, but to anyone who's ever grown up in the construction industry like I did, the River Ness truly looks like it was an old Roman road or something. It's perfectly flat on the bottom, and it is literally covered in these flat rocks. You don't see any dirt. It's like somebody literally put these stones down. So I was like, hey, was this a Roman road or something? And everybody's like, no, naturally formed river. But it's the coolest naturally formed river I've ever seen in my entire life. But there's 2 bridges across Inverness. There's one for foot traffic and there's one for cars. And you literally, it's not long. The river's probably a quarter mile wide. And you go across, I guess it's an indoor market, but there was a butcher and there were like soaps and all that kind of stuff. But, and there was an old theater. We didn't have time to go in, but there's like an old, like cool looking theater. Inverness is phenomenal. And if my wife came home from work today and said, I want to move to Scotland, I would be in Inverness tomorrow. And we would be doing this podcast my part would be from Inverness from now on. I usually do a good amount of research before I go to a place. Now, not necessarily like if I'm going on a cruise or something, because, you only have so much time in port, and they don't usually put you in a place. They don't usually land in a place that's super steeped in the culture. So but I usually do a lot of research. And we got over there and we were in Inverness and there's the River Ness and so on and so forth. We got, I mean, a
Now,
couple,
Inverness, River Ness, not necessarily the
I
one.
got home and then
Oh, no,
noticed
I
that
just
we were,
got you on that, didn't I?
yeah, I got home and noticed we were 10 miles from Loch Ness and we could have easily taken a taxi to Loch Ness. And I kick myself for that to this day. Because, I might have been that easy schmuck who got, pulled out my iPhone and got Nessie. Who knows? But
She's still there waiting for you.
yeah, well, I'm going back, I promise. So that's Inverness. And then we went to Invergordon, which is even smaller. It's sort of like the baby sister of Inverness. It's also Invergordon's wonderful. It's a little bit more. It's more of a sea town because it's closer to the shore. Inverness is too, but it's kind of set look on a map. I'm not explaining it well, but if you want to look up the difference. And then we went to Glasgow, which is absolutely fantastic. We went to a museum in Glasgow. Please don't ask me the name of it, I've already forgotten. But Glasgow is an interesting city. It was not my favorite. So all you Glaswegians who are listening to this, please don't send me death threats. Just it was a beautiful place. It's not some place I would want to live, but it was absolutely a wonderful place to visit. But then we went to Edinburgh, which is stunning. And I mean, stunning. If I was I think at this point now, obviously I've not been to all of the major metropolitan areas in Europe, but if I was going to live in a major metropolitan area, it'd probably be Edinburgh.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So does Inver mean something? Is that like, so you said Inverness, Invergood. Is there something about
I
when
think
Inver
it
is?
means inland,
Okay. I was saying, does it mean river? Does it mean inlet? Something like that, so.
or well, I don't know if there's a Gordon River. Might mean on the Ness. I don't know. That's a really good question. Somebody please answer that in the comments, and I will look it up after this because now Jim's asked me a question I don't know the answer to, and that's going
I'm
to drive me
sorry.
nuts.
You didn't cut this out.
Absolutely fine, my friend. Absolutely fine.
That was not meant to put you on the spot. I thought for sure you'd know it. I was trying to cue up something and be like, yes, that's what it is.
So then we went to, like I said, Edinburgh. Edinburgh was the seat of power. There's the Edinburgh Castle. There is this unbelievably cool, I don't even know what you call it. It's a street, but it's a European street and it's old. So it's got shops on both sides and it's flagstone all the way up. The street is probably, I don't know, 30 feet wide. I mean, it's a Horkin street. It holds a lot of people. And that's called the Royal Mile. And that starts at the bottom of the hill and winds up and ends up at Edinburgh Castle. There are all sorts of shops and pubs and everything else. Funny story I made. You understand, when we were there, and I'm assuming this is at any time, there were probably in that, I don't know if it's actually a mile, but they call it the Royal Mile. In that street area, whatever, there were probably 4,000 people spread out over the entire thing. I'm sure locals and tourists and everybody. So I am, those of you who've listened to this have probably figured out I'm a bit ADHD and I'm a lot impetuous. So we're in this crowd and we're in a foreign country and we don't know anybody. And I disappeared in the crowd. And my wife tells the story. She looked around and she goes, "Oh my God, where did he go?" And she looked up and there was a Masonic symbol. I'm a Freemason. And she's like, "I know where he is." So I went and there's a little Masonic store and it's about the size of my bedroom. I mean, it's not large at all. And the gentleman told me in a Scottish brogue, I will not try to mimic that, he was the only Masonic store in the world.
Wow.
And so I bought a couple things from him and chatted with him for a while. It was pretty cool. And then as we went up, so at the time we went there, I was working for a local distillery here in Virginia. And the daughter of the distiller had just gotten her master's degree from in brewing and distilling from a university in Edinburgh. It wasn't University of Edinburgh. I can't remember what it's called, Sarah something. But anyway, she was telling me that I had to try the Scotch whiskey experience. And I'm like, okay, it's on the Royal Mile. So it was, I don't know, like $20 a person or whatever. So my son was, we went over he had just graduated college, like 21, 22, and he was very into Scotch. That was his thing. So we went. Well, I had paid online before we got there, and we walk in, and there's this like cool little tiny gift shop, and the guy, greets us and takes our ticket and everything else, and he walks us down this hallway, and you're not going to believe me, but it's true. These plastic half barrel ride thing you sat in and it went around, and I'm like, oh my God, what has she got me into? Like, what the hell is this? So as you start this ride through this building, the ghost of some historic distiller in Scotland is speaking to you about the process of distilling Scotch. And I'm thinking, this is just going to be bad. This is going to be bad. Well, it was fun. It was kitschy. It was fun. Then you get off the ride, and they took you into this. They walked you through like this distilling thing, and then they took you into this room, and you watched a short video. And oddly enough, they had there are four. And I'm not even gonna try to do this, but I'm screwed. There's basically four types of Scotch. I remember Isla, which is the very smoky, peaty one, and then there's one from the north. Anyway, they actually had a scratch and sniff card. Do you remember the old scratch and sniff cards from the 80s? Thank you. And I'm like, what the hell? So every time it would come up on the screen, it would say, now scratch, Isla. And it's like, and you could sort of smell it, and you got all these adults smelling these cards. That was kind of funny. Then they took us into this room, and it is floor to ceiling glass cases with all the different scotches of the world, one bottle each. And then they took us into this room that had one of the biggest oak tables I've ever seen in my life. And they sat like 20 of us down, and we actually did a tasting. Did honest to God, and the guy who came in knew his stuff, and he was talking about, this is distilled this way, and this is this kind of barrel, and this amount of wheat, and it was really informative and really cool. And then they took us out, and they had sort of this little bar/restaurant thing, and you got one Scotch drink. That was part of the ticket. You could buy as many as you wanted, but you got one. And so we sat there, and it was all glass, and we're looking over the city of Edinburgh and the whole thing. And then they take you to the coolest gift shop I've ever seen in my life, because not only can you buy t-shirts and stuff like that, you could buy any kind of Scotch on the planet you could think of, and you could either take it with you or they would ship it to your home for a fee, and then you were done. So I know I just went through that whole thing, but when you walk in the door, you think, what the heck? But if you go to Edinburgh, folks, and you like whiskey of any kind, try the Scotch Whiskey Experience. We are not in any way affiliated with them, but I looked it up today to make sure it's still there, and it is. And it's hands down, it's worth every penny. It's one of the coolest things. If you just want to learn what Scotch is, or if you want to learn a little bit more about Scotch, if you think you know about Scotch, you should check it out. It's really cool.
Awesome.
How it was.
I like Scotch. I'm not going to deny. In fact, is there must be some rite of passage that every young man must drink Scotch?
Oh, yes.
But I guess it's like the strongest thing, right? I don't know enough about all that, but my first thing was to have a Scotch when I got legal age. And then I remember saying, why did I do it? But then I fell in love with it eventually.
My son loves Scotch. My dad loves Scotch. I can't do it. I don't know what it is. This is way more information than anybody needs. But about 15 years ago, I developed some sort of allergy. I can't drink anything that was aged in a barrel.
Really?
Other than wine. And it's not a matter of like pounding it. I mean, if I drink this much Scotch in a glass tomorrow morning, my stomach is going to be bloated and I'm going to be sick as a dog. So
wow, that sucks.
No, it sucks because
life.
Well, and I'm from Virginia. I grew up on bourbon. I mean, hell, bourbon got me through college. But yeah. So I just have to drink clear liquors now. I can't do that. But so I did taste the Scotch. I did take one for the team because I was there and I thought it was really cool. But and I don't know if it's psychosomatic or if it's brewed or if it distilled slightly differently over there, but it didn't hurt me as bad over there as it does over here. So I don't know what it is.
Maybe that's truly in your blood versus what you get here.
Who knows? We always talk about food on this podcast. I will tell you that. So my wife and I decided we are now vegan. We actually were not vegan. We actually decided to become vegan right after that trip. No affiliation. We were moving toward that. I have gout and I had to do something. But anyway, we decided we were going to try to find the best fish and chips in the UK. So we went to London.
Disappointing, wasn't it?
What's that?
Was it disappointing?
Not at all. No.
Good.
God, no. So we went to London and I had fish and chips with the mushy peas or whatever you call it. And it was wonderful. It's glorious. And then we had it again in Ireland. And it was, I had fish and chips in Dublin with a couple of Guinness, and that was a religious experience. And then we went to, we were in Inverness, and we went in a little pub. And when I say little, I mean little. You walk through the pub, and I think there was a little bar, and I think there were like 10 stools. And then you walk through, and the guy walked us down 2 steps, and there was a dining room. And I say dining room because I think it had 4 tables in it. And I'm like, give me the fish and chips. And I'm sorry to any of my British or Irish friends, but best fish and chips I've ever had in my life. And my wife concurred. She had it as well. And it was phenomenal. But anyway, no. And people talk a lot. And you had said something about this a couple of episodes ago. People really look down on food in the UK, and I don't. I don't see it. Looking for me nowadays, looking down on food in the UK is like looking down on food in the US. And what I mean by that is we have some phenomenal restaurants here in the United States, especially in some big cities. We have great restaurants, Michelin star restaurants and everything else, but we also have a McDonald's in every damn corner. So when people talk about the UK and they're like, "What the food?" It's like, no, we found some really wonderful places to eat and food I would stack up. We're not those people. My wife and I, even if we had the money, we're not going to eat at like Michelin star restaurants and all that. I can't bring myself to spend that money on something that it's only going to be in my stomach for 8 hours or whatever. But no, I thought the food was fine over there.
That's cool. I think British food has come a long way. Let's be honest. There was a time when
Absolutely.
British did not like anything. Everything was boiled, right? It was pretty much a bad experience, and it has definitely changed, which is great.
Right. No, I know you're going to ask, so I'm going to tell you. I did try haggis, and I did not hate it.
Well,
I would not.
I come from Eastern European, so you eat a lot of strange things too, right?
Right.
I've had duck's blood sausage, things like that.
I had I had blood sausage in Hawaii, which is pig blood sausage. But yeah, that was,
There you go.
to be honest, even before I went vegan, if it didn't try to eat me first, I was all in. I would try it. But yeah, no, I mean, found none of Scotland. You can tell by the way I talk about it. Scotland is a place that I can imagine people go there and go, but I also know that Scotland is a place that can suck you in and make you feel, this is going to sound cheesy, but I mean this. I have a longing for Scotland. Like I felt so at home there, but I'm that guy who loves, 55-degree weather with a spitting rain. That's me all day. That's why I love
Right.
Scotland so much. And it just, there's something so rustic and so raw about the place that is so beautiful that beyond the cities and the people and everything else, there's, I could I almost feel like, and I know this is way out there, but I almost feel like I could pitch a tent in the Highlands and just be happy for the rest of my days.
You can open up a little tour stand, right? If
Yeah.
you ask me about the Highlands, I'm from America. Wow. So what line did you cruise to do this on?
Princess.
So is that the way you recommend seeing Scotland, or is it more?
No, what I would recommend is if you've never been to Europe and you've never been to the UK and that area, I would recommend that. And I'll tell you why, because, and well, interesting you said that, unless you have a travel advisor who knows what they're doing. And that's not a sales segue. That's just the truth. So we did not necessarily, I don't know if we were looking for it, but we didn't necessarily have someone who, well, because if you think about it, compared to the US, the UK is tiny. I mean, landmass wise, it really is. I mean, Jim and I are the same way. I mean, like you said, I drove to Fort Lauderdale. It's 14 hours. That's not, that's not a huge undertaking, and it's not unheard of in the US. Let's put it that way. 14 hours I believe, would get you from Inverness to London. So you're talking, you're going through 3 different countries. But no, unless you wanted to do like a bus tour, like the couple that I sent to Italy, they're doing a bus tour where it's all they do is, they show for the bus on time. The bus takes them where they're supposed to go. There are excursions they can partake of or not partake of. But no, I think that was the easiest way to, I mean, we went to 5 countries in 12 days.
It definitely makes it easier from a logistics
Well,
perspective.
that's what I mean. You've got transportation, you don't have to worry about food. Well, the major part of the trip, you don't have to worry about food, transportation, or accommodations. So you're
Right.
just literally going ashore and you're dipping your toe in the culture. And so yeah, I mean, looking back, would I have loved to gone to Scotland for a week and maybe spent 4 or 5 days in Edinburgh and 4 or 5 days in, or I know that doesn't equal 7, but in Inverness, hell yeah, and I plan to do that at some point. But on the other hand, this is at it.
Salad,
But see, on the other hand, this is the best part of that is that, well, I'm good. Again, Irish friends, I apologize. Belfast, not my favorite city on the planet. Great. I'm glad I went there. Do not get me wrong, but I don't need to go back. Whereas Dublin, I could spend a week in Dublin. But now I know that. And I didn't have to spend a bunch of transportation dollars, a bunch of accommodations dollars, all that kind of stuff to figure that out. I just got, like, that's why I said I call it the appetizer cruise. You got a little bit. I could live on Guernsey, by the way. Guernsey's
Okay.
phenomenal. Are you familiar with Guernsey?
No, sir.
Guernsey is in sort of like it's like in between France and England. It's not in the Channel, but So it's its own little thing, but it was French forever, and then it was British forever. And so you go, like, we went into this cool little pub, and they had beer and a really killer selection of wine.
Nice.
So that's the French, that's the French. So it's sort of this really cool amalgamation of English and French. And it's a storybook little island. If you get a chance, it's Guerney, I believe. If you get a chance, look at, I can't remember the name of them. Is it Bridgetown? The main town, it looks like a fairy tale. And it's just really beautiful. But it's also where Victor Hugo went. Again, English speak. It's where Victor Hugo went when he was exiled, and he wrote Les Miserables there in this little in this little house. And we were so excited because it's a museum. And we got there, and they said the only day it was closed was on Wednesday, and we were there on Wednesday. So
what I mean is that there's just a lot of great stuff to see, first and foremost, right?
Absolutely.
Also, because we know this is available, you could do your cruise version, you could do your rail version, you could do a bus version.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have some great vendors that actually really help us out with these kind of excursion tours, from the really high end to the everyday saver versions.
Absolutely.
Definitely. If you want to go to Scotland, I'm going to tell you, reach out to Chuck, because he's going to tell you all the best places and all the things he did, and probably what to avoid and what to do. And, I think that's awesome. And I think this is what we're here for, right? This is the kind of stuff we want to share with you, which is why I'm going to say the typical, please like, subscribe, and share. We would like you to, share this. If you got other friends who talk about Scotland, I bet you Chuck could set up a group with you real fast and get you some pretty cool setups.
Absolutely.
This is the fun part of being in the travel jobs that we get to do, is that we're not only selling cruises, because that would get boring after a while. We could sell you a nice, take a river trip up through all of England. I mean, you can do a lot of, the rail's not all inclusively covering, but you get pretty far. And then bus tours where you meet, your favorite 30 people for the week, and you're with them. And then those are cool things. I mean, sounds like it's a real dreamy place to go. It's going to be colder, right? It's not really ever super hot, I imagine.
No, it's not. I know this is going to sound really obvious, but the further north you go, the colder it gets. Because the other piece we didn't talk about, because I've not been there, but I am obsessed with a TV show called Shetland. The Shetland Islands are part of Scotland, but they're either even north of Inverness, and then there's the Orkney Islands, which are either north of that, which are, pushing the Arctic Circle. But yeah, I mean,
to be honest, Chuck just wants a My Little Pony. For details on how to send him My Little Ponies, reach out.
I am not a brony. No offense to those bronies involved, but you're right, Jim. You could say that about any place. You could say, the U.S. has everything you could ever want, and that's true. But it's really spread out. And the thing about Scotland is, Edinburgh is a teeming, amazing city. Like, if you wanted to go fart around in a metropolitan area for 7 days, I promise you would not be able to exhaust everything Edinburgh has. But if you're also just want to go and relax and be quiet and be close to the Highlands and all that, Inverness is, you could find a little place in Inverness. I'm sure they rent cabins, like really nice appointed cabins up there, like really beautiful places overlooking, the ocean and all that kind of stuff. That's all up there. And then, Glasgow is also a really big, decent-sized city with a lot going on. Yeah, it's got everything. And it's one of the few places where I can imagine that you could go spend like 3 or 4 days in Edinburgh and just like take in the city, and then go north and hike the Highlands for 3 days. And some of the most breathtaking places you've ever been in your life. So it's all there.
It's important to remember, depending on the time of year you go, you could have very long days or very short days.
Correct.
Summertime, you might have sun until very late. In the wintertime, you may not get sun after 2 or 3, right? So be aware, but that's sort of the beauty of it. It's that rustic majesty of the contrast of rough mountains with green patches and clear lakes, and the sky really make it special. And I imagine Northern Lights are pretty popular up there, right?
You're not high enough for that.
Really?
Oh, that would be Orkney.
Well, it must be getting there now, because we got them all right out of Texas now. Okay.
Well, probably now, yeah. But when I was there, the other thing about Scotland is, as you get up toward the Highlands, you're going to like this. You're going to have to take sunscreen, but it's for windburn. It's not for sunburn, because there's always wind blowing. It's not obtrusive, but there's always a breeze blowing, and
I was Highlander, I remember.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, blowing in your kilt and everything else. Jim wanted me to tell you I'm wearing a kilt. I'm not actually. I have one. I just didn't. I was too lazy to put it on. So that's it. I don't have anything else. Do you?
So when are you going to plan a trip for everybody to Scotland, Chuck? Is that kind of come up?
I'm thinking we do that. Well, you and I talked about doing a cruise for everybody next year, so let's look at 27.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. Well, hey Chuck, I think this is awesome. I'm thrilled by what I heard from you. Even makes it more interesting. You hear lots of stories about going to the UK and where to go, and everybody's got something they like. And I think I have never heard so much about Scotland as today, which really made me more interested. There's a lot of this world we get to see, and you know, my big adage is go see it before you're too old or too feeble.
You're right.
So we're gonna getting out there and checking it out. Chuck, this was great. Thank you for sharing this today.
Happy to.
So I think that'll be a cut, wrap, and roll for this week of Life in the Baggage Fame. We do thank you for being here. You especially who's listening right now, you mean the world to us. We know that you have a very limited amount of time to do things. And if you took some time with us, we appreciate it. If it's in your commute, if it's while you're outside mowing the grass or sitting in the toilet, I don't care. Just as long as you're listening, please let us know what you think. I think we have a guest coming up for the first time in our next episode, right? I know we're trying to be big boys. We're putting our big boy pants on and seeing what happens. Now, I don't know. We'll see. We're testing ourselves. I'm going to say we're having a guest. You'll see when we actually publish the episode.
Right. We will have, I feel confident saying we will have a guest sometime in the future.
Yes. Again, folks, thank you. Hope you have a great week. This probably won't come out in time, but Labor Day is upon us. If you're traveling the roads, be safe and careful. This is one of the busiest times of year to travel. If you don't need to be on the road in the afternoon, don't do it. Go somewhere else. Start earlier or leave later. That's what I always say. Any plans this weekend for Labor Day, Chuck?
No. My wife is going to visit her father in Ohio, and I'm just going to be sitting here twiddling my thumbs with my cat. So
all the editing time Chuck could need for videos.
There it is.
I personally will be going to a pool party, and that's about it.
Nice. Nice.
And the weather's starting to get cooler in Texas, which I feel like we never got our summer. I've said something about the weather in every episode. I got to keep doing this, right? We never got our summer this year.
Well, we're over 50. We're allowed to talk about the weather without it being weird.
Yeah, but there's other things we're allowed to talk about, but we won't. Yeah, so it's been sort of surprising. It's been a nice summer. And hey, thanks for being here. We've hit episode 12, which is great. Let us know what you think. Hope you have a great time. Chuck, you want to sign off with any famous Scottish things that should be said? Is there? I knew I was going to stump you.
Yep. Nope.
May the road. That's
no, that's Ireland. But you're good.
Well, here's to good friends. Tonight is not in my.
Eat the haggis. Eat the haggis.
People really.
Don't call. What is it? The shinning. Don't call between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time. Don't you mean the? Yeah, don't you mean The Shining? Shh, you want to be sued?
Hi, great time today. Enjoying always with you, Chuck. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Have a great time. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks, folks.